I'm sure it can join our other collecting supply of spare keyboards and mouses. What's really annoying, her headset has been falling apart for the last 3 months, and she's been gluing the pads onto the headset, and it's gotten to the point where it'll hold a charge for about 4 hours. So she said, oh, I need a new headset. So, okay, fine, not a problem. I'll tell you what, rather than getting an RF headset where you get a little dongle that plugs in the USB socket and you can you can have a wireless headset, I said what we should do is we should get a Bluetooth thing, plug that into your USB port, and then you can pair the Bluetooth with the headset. We can get a much cheaper headset. And so that's what we went with. Her new PC has Bluetooth capability as native. So, okay, we've spent a little bit of money on a little doodad that plugs into your USB port that allows you to pair USB devices, but I don't need that now. Well, it's only $10, so not too worried about that sort of level of money. And then, but from my perspective, the advantage with this is because we are getting her a new PC, there is nothing wrong with the old PC box. There's nothing wrong with the power supply, the hard drives in it, or anything else. So what I can now do is, rather than spend $2,000 on a brand new PC, I can buy a new motherboard, memory, processor, and graphics card. That's going to cost about $1,200 rather than $2,200. Oh, we're full of me. So my options on upgrading my PC have now increased to, well, I could keep my PC but just replace most of the components. So, it would be a case of assemble all the new components in Mrs. Osa's old PC box and then transfer the hard drive over, probably transfer the power supply, because I have a bigger power supply than hers has, because I was running a nice sound card. The problem with buying some PCs, even if they're built to order, they tend to go with a power supply that is sufficient, adequate. It's more than you need, but only to the tune of slightly more than you need. So, for example, if your components all add up to, well, you need 700 megawatts to run the processor, the graphics, and everything else, we'll install a 750. They won't go for an 850. So there's little room for adding stuff into your PC. If you want to add a hard drive, it's not going to work because your power supply isn't big enough. So I think the PCs we had was 750, and then when I added everything up that was in it, we were looking about 725. So it's adequate. It'll run what's in the motherboard on in the PC. But if I wanted to add my sound card and use the surround sound, it wasn't going to work because the sound card needed 40 megawatts, and that would put me up to 675. That puts a strain on the power supply. We've already done that once with one of Mrs. Osa's old PCs, and the power supply just chonked out whenever anything heavily graphical happened on the screen. The graphics card would just shut down because there wasn't enough power being supplied by the power supply, which was supplying less than it's rated because we'd been overstressing it for so long. So definitely it's a good idea to have a bigger or more power than you need, not stupidly more power. So yeah, if your PC runs on 740 megawatts, you don't need 1,000. Unless you can visage, I'm going to add a bunch of stuff and I know what bunch of stuff I'm going to add. You can get away with a 750. If your power supply or your power requirements are 770, get an 800 or 850. That will be sufficient for what you need, and you're not spending too much money on a thing that you're never going to see all of or use all of. So anyway, I'll probably swap the power supplies because mine has an 850, hers only has a 750. Not going to put the sound card in it because the sound card died, and that was like 15 years old when I transferred it. But I like the surround sound speakers because it has a volume on-off switch and volume control as a separate little panel that sits on the desk. So if someone wants to talk to me, I can switch off the sound. Just there's the button, push it, it's done. If something's too loud, I can immediately turn it down. I don't have to look for a volume control on the desktop somewhere, which can be awkward at times. If I'm in a game, like at the moment I'm playing Farm Sim full screen, there's no volume controls on the screen that I can easily access. I think I could figure out some buttons on the keyboard that supposedly adjust the volume. But it's just, yeah, it's kind of a handy thing to have. I can turn the volume on or off very, very easily. So that's why I like it. Plus it's surround sound even if all the speakers aren't working through my current adapter. But that's the story of my PC. So I'll be... Oh, we're going diagonally this way, are we? This is going to be interesting. So I haven't done serious PC hardware stuff since the 1990s. When I bought, back in the days of 486s and Pentiums, and the PC I had started life as a 486, and I think it ended life as an AMD G3 or something like that. It went Pentium, and then I went AMD, second generation AMD, and that K5, whatever it was, K5-2. But yes, that worked well. And then I left the country and I wasn't going to drag the PC across the Atlantic. Sometimes when you move a long distance, sometimes it's just worth sitting down and figuring out, okay, I can transfer a PC, it's going to cost me, X amount plus insurance and all the rest of it, and it's all the hassle. Or I can just turn up at the new place and I can buy a PC for much less. Similar with when you're moving furniture, and it's sort of, I can get most of the things into a 30-foot truck, but if I want to move all of the things, I'm going to need a semi-truck. I can't drive a semi-truck, and it's going to be an inordinate amount more to rent one. So why don't I just transfer the stuff I absolutely know I want to keep, and we'll abandon everything else in the house when we leave. And I've done that a few times. And the problem is it's not like we're moving round the corner. Most of our moves, we did a move from California to Texas, we did a move from Texas to Michigan, and it really boiled down to how much of this stuff do we want to take with us? So how big a truck do I need? How much money am I going to spend on renting a truck? And then, past that, how much how much more expensive is it to buy some other stuff? I mean, back in Texas, we had a very old CRT TV. I mean, it was huge. It had all the electronics and all the fancy stuff, and it weighed an absolute ton. There's no way I could carry it on my own. I couldn't even, with the help of Mrs. Osa, carry it downstairs. It was that heavy. So it was just a case of, we're going to leave this behind, because I can buy a brand new TV for $200 and it's going to cost $200 just to get a bigger truck to transfer it and all the other stuff. Plus we're going to have to hire a mover at both ends to actually lift it and carry it, because I got bad back issues, and this was before I got seriously bad back issues. I'm just not happening. So don't be scared to abandon stuff, especially if it's 10 years old. Another one that, things that don't travel well, fridges and freezers. You're probably much better off leaving them behind and buying a new one when you get to where you're going. Because if you turn a fridge off for a prolonged period, it frequently doesn't restart if it's very old or it has issues, and you call the repairmen round like 5 times, spend $1,000 fixing it, and then you still end up buying a new one. So you've got the expense of shipping it, the expense of fixing it, and you still end up buying a new one. So but anyway, so that's the thing. So we're going to buy, Mrs. Osa's getting a brand new PC, and it's not quite the specs I want, which is why it's not a case of, well, I'll get my PC and you can have mine, which is as good as yours. It's more a case of, you don't have nearly the issues the requirements of a PC that I have. So let's just buy you a good one. I mean, a 13th generation i5 isn't bad, and a 3070 graphics card is, also not bad. It'll run most things today. If you want to play City Skylines or Starfield, it probably won't, or at least it won't do it well. But also I have concerns that next year, or the end of this year, if we do get Farming Simulator 25, it's going to have higher graphics requirements and iStream, and it may not be up to the capabilities that my current graphics is on FarmSim 22. And I looked at, well, maybe I could buy basically what my wife's getting, I even looked at, well, maybe I just need to upgrade the graphics card on this, because the processor's an 8th generation i7. It's still perfectly adequate for the sort of games I play. I could do with a better graphics card. The issue with getting a better graphics card is my motherboard will only support GTX RTX 20 series. I could plug a 40 series into it, but I will not reap the benefits that a 40 series gives me. So, yeah, 20 is the best I can hope for, and still, and stay within or gain the full 100% what you're paying for when you buy a new card in the 20 series. The problem is at the time I was looking at it, 20 series graphics cards were more expensive than 40 series. And it's sort of, why do I want to pay an absolute ton more money for a 20 series graphics card when I could get a new motherboard, processor and 40 series graphics card, or at least a 30 series graphics card, and a motherboard that will run a 40 series graphics card if I decide I do need to upgrade that later when they get cheaper, for less money than the 20 series. It was kind of a ridiculous situation, but and also if I buy a 20 series, how long is it going to be before I need to upgrade it anyway? And I would need a new motherboard and processor and memory. I don't need new, I mean we've got DDR4 memory in this one, but it would be good to get the more expensive, faster stuff. I'm not averse to that. And I'd probably keep my hard drive, just switch the hard drive over. At this point, we're not even sure that when Mrs. Osa gets her PC, we'll just run it as is, or whether I'll pull the hard drive out of hers and put it in the new one. Because if we did that, all of her files and documents would be on the PC and available. The problem is, because the USB port died, or the USB circuit died, I can't plug USB things into it like USB drives. So we can't save any of the data off her PC and transfer it anywhere else on the... We've got an external hard drive, we've got thumb drives, but yeah, no USB, no work. And also the keyboard doesn't work. She said, oh, I'm sure we've got an old PS2 keyboard knocking around. I said, yes, we have, and your PC doesn't have a PS2 socket in the back, so there's nowhere to plug it. The only way to plug it into a modern PC is to use the little PS2 to USB converter that the keyboard came with. And then we're in the same situation because your USB doesn't work. So, I mean, I did that probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I bought a little, I think they call them a toaster, that you can just plug a hard drive into, and it plugs into your USB port. You pull all the files off the old hard drive. And we had about 5 old PCs sitting in the basement, so I just pulled all the hard drives out. We started transferring the data over to her PC, or at least the data she wanted. So, yeah. So I'm going to have some fun this week. Well, actually, I'm going to have some fun later on today, since the PC's due to arrive today. Getting Mrs. Osa back on a desktop PC rather than the travel laptop. And the travel laptop's not bad. I think we bought it 10 years ago, so it runs basic stuff, and I really used it when I was when we moved to Michigan. Initially I was on a 6-month contract, so I stayed in a long stay hotel which had all the cooking facilities and everything. It was really nice. And I signed up for Netflix, and they would send me DVDs, and I would send the DVD back, and they'd stick the next one in my list. I had a list of about 45 requested DVDs at one point, and was slowly working my way through them. But having a reasonable laptop gave me PC capability. Generally, hotels don't really like you setting up a large desktop PC, but if you've got a laptop, that's fine. So the laptop was good. It had, it's big enough that it's got the number pad on the side of the keyboard, and it's a wide. Oh, am I full again? It's widescreen. It's not a big screen, but it's a wide screen. It's got the number pad, which I kind of liked. And the only thing I actually had to add to it was a radio mouse. So little doobie plugs into the USB, and I've got a separate mouse rather than stupid keypad, thing. At the bottom of the keyboard. I hate those things. Never have liked them. Although they're a little bit better than, I think it was Dell did a sort of a joystick button that worked like a mouse. Somewhere around the GH B keys. They were just awful. Separate mouse and then just the keyboard, native keyboard. And I could watch Netflix DVDs on it, which was brilliant. And then whenever we go away, it gives us the ability to, most hotels have Wi-Fi these days. Back in the day, they didn't, but so long as you had your own network connector, you could plug into the hotel network and access the internet, so no big deal. And I could watch Netflix and access my emails and play simple games, and whenever we've gone on vacation since, the laptop goes with us. Doing that, something I've done since digital cameras first came out. I bought myself a digital camera. I did have a film camera, which I tended to use for the good photos, but digital camera was good for the sort of the instant holiday photos that you wanted it as a memory, not necessarily as something you're going to put on display. And so I bought myself a digital camera, and of course the problem is you can take 20 pictures and then the memory card's full if you're taking high resolution pictures. So that was kind of so I just came up with this way. I'd take a laptop with me. We would go out for the day, take photos, and I usually have 2 memory cards, so I can take 40 photos in a day or in an outing. Get back to the hotel, first thing I do was transfer all the photos into a folder onto the PC and clean off the memory cards. And next day or later on that day, we could go out on another trip, and I've got capacity for another 40 photos. I'm not a big photo taker, so it's not like I was hitting 40 photos a day. So I would just, as I said, we'd get home and I'd have all of the photos would be on the laptop, and I can transfer them off and print what I want, save what I want. So and that was since the late 1990s, I'd like to say. It's just been a case of I always take a laptop on vacation with me to store the photos on. Obviously these days you can tell everybody has a photo taking device. if you've got a cell phone, you can take photos and you can post them online immediately, so you're not so worried about the storage. But still, not broken the habit of taking a laptop on vacation. And if nothing else, it's a travel guide. What should we do tomorrow? Why don't you Google the area and see what's of interest? How do we get there? MapQuest. And print the instructions in the business office of the hotel you're staying at. So yeah, Mrs. Osa's using that laptop at the moment. So we're doing this, and this is the reason I do Maize. This is actually quite quick, especially when you think about the volume. Actually, I should check.